You are listening to A Knock on the Wall. Imagine being locked inside of a concrete box with no mental stimulation. You hear a knock on the wall. Do you listen? You know why we crack babies? Because we born in the 80s. Kendrick Lamar said that. Episode 2, Elementary. The Jungles. I went to preschool next to the apartment. We lived in the jungles, the more intense area of Baldwin Hills, off Coliseum Street and South La Brea Avenue. If 0 to 5 years old is when we were programmed, then I was infected with the low-income, low-expectation Rodney King distrust of authority bug during that time span. I remember the small dog that pooped in the bathtub. Mom would get home, yell at the dog, and clean the tub every night. In the mornings I would be dropped off at the apartment above ours to eat cereal and watch cartoons with the Mexican family who lived above us. My mom left me with the Mexican family so she could take my sister to school, then go to work. I don't remember how I would get to my preschool, but I will never forget my walk through the door. I had long curly hair, so every time I walked in the door, a grown man who stood next to the doorway would pull my hair and make me cry. My mom wondered why I hated school so much. One time she walked me to the preschool door. I cried trying to pull away from her because having my hair pulled was torture. Somehow I explained to her that the man pulled my hair every morning. As soon as she found out, she yelled at him one day. It sure felt good to have my mom yell at the guy not to pull my hair anymore, and he didn't. He never pulled my hair again. Somehow at that age I already knew how to be tough and demand respect. There was this one swing that I enjoyed so much I demanded it as my own. We were so small at our preschool age that I remember standing under the swing, and this slightly bigger kid came to get on it. I stood my ground. No. This is my swing, you can't use it. He didn't listen and pushed past me. I didn't get it when I told the other kids this was my swing. They just left me all alone to stand by myself under the swing. I knew what I had to do. I punched the kid. He began to cry and left the swing. I couldn't believe it worked and the kid didn't get on my swing. I felt like I learned a valuable lesson, that if another kid wants what you claim as yours, you need to back them up with violence. My reign of terror in preschool did not last long. A teacher was informed of what I did, and my mother was notified. She was so angry with me, and I didn't understand why she did not understand me. A little later I remember the teachers putting candy in front of me, and they were talking so much I couldn't understand what they were saying. All I knew was how much I loved candy, and the fact that they were giving us so much. I was so excited the school was giving us free candy. I ate as much of it as I could until my stomach hurt. When the teacher began yelling at me, I got sad and cried. I didn't understand why I was getting punished for something that they were giving me. It turns out that candy was for a fundraiser. The school responded by kicking me out, and this forced me to have to go to a big kids school, a regular elementary school where I wasn't gonna do no punching or pushing of anybody. All I can remember of that school is standing on a blacktop all by myself like nobody wanted to play with me. Another memorable moment of living in the jungles was the car accident. I was sitting in between my mother and sister in the front seat of a little car. I remember sitting there at a light singing a lullaby in my head, and then bam, hitting my head on the center console. I looked up at the cracked windshield. My sister was crying. My initial thought was Freddy Krueger smashed our car. We were all okay, and I remember getting out of the car and being on the side of the road of a busy intersection, and my mother being so mad at another person who ran the light and crashed into us. I remember my mom had a favorite store in Baldwin Hills, and I would look at it every time we drove by it. One odd day we drove by it. All I could see was a demolished building. In my mind I thought it was blown up. My mother took pictures of it and looked so sad. I asked her what happened to it. My mother watched the Rodney King riots on the TV and was shocked to see our neighborhood on the news. This was her first day out of the apartment since the riots. That was all the motivation my mother needed to move to Paris. Even back in 1991, when law enforcement was beating Rodney King, their decisions would have an impact upon my life a year later with the riots, and I was just a baby. I've spent my entire life fleeing police-instigated violence. Welcome to Paris, California. My mother moved us to Paris, California, 70 miles east of Los Angeles, 80 miles north of San Diego, 250 miles southwest of Las Vegas, and 324 miles west of Phoenix. That puts it at a dynamic crossroad. Paris is located inside of Riverside County and the broader two-county region, Riverside and San Bernardino counties, of the Inland Empire. Paris was nothing like the jungles in terms of size, and the neighborhood we moved to, we went from a major inner city to suburban tract homes. The downtown portion of the city, incorporated in the year 1911, was much older and run down. Some of it looks as if a couple square blocks of South Los Angeles were carved out and placed here in this far-off valley. My mother was confident she could rest easy at night while her kiddos stayed safely in the suburbs, so she kept her job in Los Angeles, commuting 2 hours to work 5 days a week. On the surface, this appeared to be the perfect American dream. Park Avenue. The first elementary school I attended in Paris was called Park Avenue. It was in the older South Central-looking portion of our small city. I remember my mother was gone to work in Los Angeles, leaving at 4 in the morning. My sister would walk me to the bus stop around the corner and make sure I got on the right bus to school. Once on the bus, I would have to have faith that I was going to the right school and walk to the right place. I remember being stressed out by the thought of being on my own. A soothing moment was when on the bus driver would have us sing a song. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all day long. That became one of my favorite songs, and I would sing it every day when I got home from school, and even at the county fair, which was held in our city. Me and my neighbor Brian got up on stage at the country song event and sang it in front of a crowd of unimpressed folks. This was one of my favorite childhood memories of being outgoing and friendly. Things changed when the new school was completed in our part of the city. This school was newly built to serve the low-income middle-class suburban students. The way Paris was sociologically and economically divided was by the 215 freeway. This was like any other city's river or railroad tracks that separated the rich from the poor. In our case, we had a couple of bridges, freeway overpasses, you had to cross to get to what we knew of as uptown, the suburban tract homes and apartments, and downtown, the Section 8 and low-income older housing and apartment. The city was neglecting the older portion of the city, downtown, because the new suburban tract homes being constructed at a rapid pace uptown was bringing in a ton of money to this poor city. Who was moving to this small city? Los Angeles. Over 80% of new residents to the city were moving from intercity Los Angeles, Compton, and Watts. This brought Los Angeles culture with it, and a large portion of African Americans to join the already numerous Hispanic populations. Going to the newly constructed school was exciting, but now I had to walk to the bus stop alone, which was a scary situation to be in. I had nobody to protect me, or better yet give me directions. I would be on my own in getting to school. You are listening to A Knock on the Wall. Imagine being locked inside of a concrete box with no mental stimulation. You hear a knock on the wall. Do you listen?